I'd like to talk about loading and application. I watched a lady on TV, and she was a decorative artist, a real genius. And she would paint a whole wall full of, what do they call them? Ficas. And in short order. Short order. How? Loading. Loading her brush. Now, she prepared her palette. Now, we've prepared our palette. And I've prepared my canvas with the liquid white on the bottom, and then I put it on the top also, like this. You can put it on the top. So you got some dark there. Well, I can string some light too. So I go back and forth on my cube. That goes back and forth, with the pyramid. Oh, I forgot to use that one. This works with painting also. This one too. So you see the front and you see the back and you see the front and you see the back, and that's what you try to do when you train yourself with this light and dark business, especially on the palette. You kind of train yourself to know what's coming up. So you have surprises. That's the principle of unpredictability is always. But when you're trying to color match or do foundational work, you need to have a nice foundation to play on. So when this lady was loading her brushes to do these murals, she was just having fun at that point. It's not like, she was in the load the darn thing and boom, 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 boom. And she's skilled, of course, and you can build those skills. But we want to do more by doing less, or just cutting through a lot of the BS. That's all I want to do here is just cut through. And I had to do that in order to make a living. So you learn stuff. And you learn how to cut the fat, kind of, and the weight that is not necessary. So what I've done is I've learned how to load my knives. Plus I've also learned some techniques that, well, just go in reverse. That didn't take anything. There's just a tree back there I etched out. That's part of this. I get this stuff all over. I said the other segment, I said, the paint doesn't go anywhere except on the knife and on the canvas. Yeah, and all over me too. But, so, that's the other quote-unquote thing. I don't like that. And then, well, I can be very expressive with this wet-on-wet technique and this unforgiving medium of oils. I believe that if you can really get comfortable with oils, you would definitely get into watercolor. It'd be a lot easier to go. But sketching on, if you're a good sketcher, you go to watercolor because you're working dark over light. You have a light piece of paper, and you're working with a dark medium on top, and that's true with drawing on white board. But oils, not necessarily so. See that? That's what I like about them. You see that? Now I put a light paint over dark. They're both wet, but they're playing on each other just in reverse. That's what's fun about wet on wet also. And when you have it and you can do your edges, now I don't know exactly what that is, but who cares? It looks cool. Now if I wanted to put another color in there, I take my swatch, that's sap green, and I forgot to clean my knife. It doesn't matter at this point if I'm working dark and mushy, but if I was up here, I want a clean knife, but I'll take that and I'll swatch it. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Yeah. And I can do a little line of green. What can I do with that little line of green? Well, I can take a little needle. It's a little tiny needle. I think some of my hair is thicker than this thing. And watch. I could do something like that with it. It doesn't take any time at all. Now I can use something a little, where I can put a little more pressure on it. More color. And if you notice, I can do particle N wave. I can go reverse, and I can go light over dark and dark over light with the same strokes. Watch. I'm working right over in here. I can bring them down and I can go up. Down, up, lights, darks at the same time. Quantum physics. That's what this is all about. This is being able to put down and take off and combine the vase and the profile. What I just did here with a wet on wet technique with dark and light. And with a, oh gosh, this was a, this is what they put the meat on when you barbecue it. This one, and then I mounted it on something else, but it is a nice point. And I probably had I remember I found a whole bunch of these. I walked by a restaurant one day in Pioneer Square, and somebody had dumped a pack of these in the street. I figured, well, they probably won't use them in the restaurant. And so I made some tools out of them. And what I've just demonstrated here goes on to illustrate that very fact. And this is what I learned on mirrors again, too. This was mirror work also. See this? I can take that, I can get it out and put it down at the same time. This is fascinating business. And when I discovered this, I realized that what did this have to do with this observer platform and this complementarity principle? And when I talk about incorporating those principles into drawing and painting, this is exactly what I mean. And I started to see it this way. Started out with abstracts and then into mirrors and abstracts on mirrors. Some guy, hey, Francis, I want you to do an abstract on this old mirror. It's cracked, just throw some thick paint on it. Okay, what do you want? A ship, a house, a mountain? What do you want? I want you to do an abstract. That's it. What? And it was an old frame with beautiful filigree and all that. But this mirror was cracked, and he couldn't sell it. It was an antique dealer. He actually dealt antiques. He wasn't so much into the junk. So I did an abstract on this mirror, and that was, things just clicked. And when they click, well, stuff like this happens in other mediums and applications. It's called cross-training. So what happened was, I started blasting away on canvas after working on these mirrors and seeing this observation principle of I can't get out of my own way. I'm looking at myself when I'm doing my art. Big deal. That's not complicated or mystical. That's what happens when you paint on mirrors. You show up. So does the rest of the studio. And then when you put them on the wall, oh my gosh, the whole room moves with you. called relativity and perception. Mirrors are great. We're going to go into that. They're really a lot of fun. But anyway, I discovered this kind of business when I worked on mirrors. Now this looks really cool, and there's no effort in this at all. This is a lot of accomplishment without a whole lot doing it. They say, well, yeah, I've been doing it, but look what I've done. And it's because of the simplicity that I've discovered in applying paint with styluses when you have the right foundations, viscosities, velocities. And you have this nice slick field. It's called particle and wave. You put the wave down first, the energy, the canvas, and you prepare it. And then you got all this nice little paint dancing around on top of it. And that's just what happens inside of the atom. There's all this energy in there. And you don't need a whole lot of effort and paint. Look at how much paint I've used. Hardly at all. It's mostly the mineral oil and the white. And that's your field, and that's fun, man. Because what's a football player if he doesn't have a field? Well, what's an artist? So you have to prepare your field properly also. And the elements that you're dealing with in the protocol in which they relate. And that is color and value, viscosity and velocity. Particle weight, E equals mc squared.